Hello and welcome to Riley Performance. So today I'm just going to go through a speed session with you. Okay, so for team sport athletes, it's very important that you get out once, twice a week and hit your max speed. Something that you don't hit in sessions, and sometimes you rarely hit it in games. But it's very important that you still train this. Number one, from an injury prevention standpoint, so that in a game, if you have to go on a max speed run, maybe a recovery run from a corner or something that requires you to sprint for over 40 meters, that you're prepared and that your body knows what it feels like, so you're less likely to get injured. And two, training your maximum speed and your top speed can help you get faster on the pitch, can improve your acceleration, it can improve your running economy, and can just make you an all-round better athlete. Okay, so I'm going to go through a session with you today, just a simple session, and I'm going to give you some tips on how you can implement this session into your training. Okay, so before we get into any sort of speed work, we need to do a dynamic warm-up. So before this, I've done 5 to 10 minutes of a dynamic warm-up, so make sure you do that, make sure you're fully warmed up. Okay, so now we're getting into just some speed drills, so they almost act as a bit more of a warm-up, but it's a bit more specific to what you're doing. Okay, so we start off with A skips. So A skips are kind of just like normal skips, but what you're looking to focus on is driving your knee high, sinking your arms with your knees, so like you can see there, keeping your knees high and keeping your ankles dorsiflexed when they're in the air, so your toes are pointed up, and then when you hit the ground, you're hitting the ground directly under the center of your mass. Okay, second ones are a bit like A skips, but they're called booms. So these just help to reinforce that position. So you hold the position for a step. So I find these quite difficult. As you can see, I'm not the best at them, but they're really good for just reinforcing good position. Okay, so keep the ankles stiff, toes pointed up towards you, and make sure you're hitting the ground directly underneath your center of mass. Okay, so once we got our A skips done, our booms done, we're moving on to something called B skips. So this is actually a hurdler drill, but I just find it really good for reinforcing that kind of striking pattern that you're looking for, so improving your stride length, but also just helping you coordinate your feet with your arms, and helping you coordinate your striking patterns with the ground. Okay, so I do 2 sets of everything. So after this, we moved on to just a light plyometric drill, so a pogo jump. So what I'm looking at is just trying to spend as little time on the floor as possible. So quick contacts on the floor, keeping the toes pointed up. So I do 2 sets of this, and then we move on to the next drill. Okay, so the next little warm-up thing we're going to do is a knee wall drive. Okay, so I like to just do a little variation of it. So what you're looking at is driving your knee forward as much as you can and holding at the top. So I do 3 on each leg. So once again, when your toe hits the ground, try and keep your ankle pointed up towards you. Try and drive the knee forward like you're almost kneeing someone in the face. So this is just a switch, so this one helps with the coordination, once again, of switching between your legs when you're sprinting. Okay, so once we've our wall drills done, our A skips done, our B skips done, etc., we're just going to work on a few bounds. Okay, so I like to do 2 to 3 sets of bounds. So bounds are almost like sprinting. They just mimic the action of sprinting, but you're almost jumping off the ground with each step. So they're a plyometric exercise. So what you're looking to do is bound off each step, so almost skip off each step, but you're doing it at with the same mechanics of running. Okay, so it's just a good way to once again incorporate a bit of technique into your warm-up. So I do 2 to 3 sets. So these are quite a taxing plyometric drill. So take your time in between them and make sure you get them done right. Okay, so once we've all our technique and warm-up drills done, we're getting on to the meat and bones of session. So today was a kind of a max velocity session. So what it was 4 30-meter runs, so 4 30-meter sprints and 5 60-meter sprints, okay? So for the 30-meter sprints, I'm looking a little bit more at the acceleration phase. So I'm thinking of a nice forward lean. So a nice forward lean, driving my knee forward and trying to propel myself horizontal, okay? So I done 4 of them, so roughly about 3 to 4 minutes in between each rep, and then I moved on to some max velocity work. So let's just break down my technique. Yeah, so like I was saying, let's just break down my technique in soma. So what you're looking for is a forward knee drive, toes pointed up, push off the standing leg, so use that as your anchor. Keep your head neutral, your upper body relaxed. So you don't want to be tensed up and crouched over. You're trying to be in a straight line. Okay, so forward lean, but everything should be in a straight line. So if you drew a line from your head all the way down to your ankles, leaning forward, you should be in a straight line. So you shouldn't be over hunched. So if you look at me, especially in the second one, I'm kind of a bit over hunched in my upper back. So I need to just relax a bit more in my upper body, keep my head neutral and keep everything in line. I could probably lean forward more as well, especially in this one, when we see in slow-mo, I find it hard to lean forward, but you're looking for a nice forward lean, push off your standing leg, drive the knee, keep everything in line. Make sure you get the arm action in sync as well. So your arm should be coming up to 90 degrees and you shouldn't be fully extending your elbow on the back. So it should just be a 90-degree motion all the way through. Now we're moving on to max velocity work. So max velocity work is a sprint from about 30 to 60 meters. So you build up to about 30 and then you're all out sprinting from 30 to 60. So you should be hitting your top speed in between that 30 to 60 meters. Doing anything longer than 60 meters, you're not going to be getting any faster. So it's kind of not worth it if max velocity is what you're looking to hit. Yeah, so as I was saying, for your max velocity and when you're sprinting, all out sprinting, your posture changes a little bit. So from acceleration, we were talking about that forward lean. Now, when you get to about 30 meters, you're going to look to come up and be a bit more upright, okay? So almost not leaning backwards, but you're upright. You're driving your knee up. You're keeping your toe pointed up, and you're striking the ground mid-foot. With your midfoot directly underneath your mass, okay, and trying to propel yourself forward, okay? So strike the ground aggressively with your foot, but don't spend too long on the ground, okay? So you're looking for high impact into the ground, so high force production, but low ground contact time. So you're not looking to spend too much time on the ground, okay? So if we go through my technique, so as you can see, I'm trying to drive my knees nice and high, got my arm motion, looks pretty good there. But I'm kicking back a small bit, so my legs are coming out behind me a bit too much. So I need to work on getting a better cyclical motion of my legs. So as soon as one leg hits the ground, I'm thinking about bringing it back up so that it almost cycles back up and is a bit more under my body, so I can drive my knee higher. So that's the session. just a simple session. If you're new to sprint training, I would probably do a little less volume because I know it doesn't seem as much, but it is quite a lot of sprinting, and it is very, very taxing, okay? So just make sure you're proper warmed up. Don't do any static stretches in your warm-up. And try and get this in once to twice a week. So even if it's just at the start of your training session with your team, you do some max velocity sprints, 3 or 4, perfect. Okay, that's perfect for injury prevention. If you want to increase your speed, you're going to look to do them a bit more often and try and build your volume up and up and your technique up and up. But it's very much a technique game with sprinting. So I really hope you enjoyed it and took something away from it. And if you have any questions, don't be afraid to contact me on my Instagram, which is Riley Performance, or shoot me an email at rileyperformance@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.